Welcome to Freshly Grounded, episode 139, guys. This episode is with my brother, my older brother, Omar Choudhry, my blood brother. I think that I wanted to. Well, first, there's two reasons we did this episode. One main one, which is that we have kind of got a new system, a new setup in the podcast studio that Omar's helped us set up, and that it's set up for our podcast and Omar's new podcast. And we wanted to test it out, the whole system. It's like multi-cameras and there's a whole kind of madness going on behind the screen, which you guys will kind of have a look at. But in order to test out all this new equipment and stuff, we decided to shoot an episode. And I said to Omar that if we're going to shoot an episode, a test episode, then I prefer to do one where instead of talking about our personal lives and stuff, that we can have the type of conversation that we normally have off air, just to have it on air. And normally what happens is me and Omar and I work together, left, right and centre. What was that, Nate? You're doing that with your hand? Oh, no, I'm not meant to look at. I'm not looking at the camera though. Naturally, I mean generally. So I can't remember what I was saying. The concept of the episode was let's just chat about the things that we chat about normally, but just on air. And normally, Omar and I have worked in the same office as each other for like probably close to 10 years now. And I come into the office in the morning, and like the first thing we always talk about is what's going on in the tech space, or what's going on with different industries, different businesses, consumer psychology, and all that kind of stuff. I know it sounds like really a weird thing to talk about, but generally we're very, very intrigued by that kind of stuff. So I thought let's just have a normal conversation on air, and that's what we did. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and like I always say, if you're a fan of this kind of thing and you enjoy Freshly Grounded, please do check us out on Patreon and sign up to be a patron by going to patreon.com, patreon.com/freshly grounded, and become a premium subscriber. It really helps us out and it makes a world of a difference to us. It's around £5 a month, and you get every episode early, but more than anything, you're able to support us, help us improve our quality, guest expenses, and a bunch of other stuff. So if you do like Freshly Grounded and you do want to support us, it really goes a long way, and I can't express enough how grateful we are to the few Patreons we do have. So patreon.com/freshly grounded. Also follow us on Twitter at Freshly Grounded and Instagram Freshly_grounded. And without any further ado, this is episode 139 of FG.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded,
No, after that bit.
the brand new podcast
And after that bit?
by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
So
I got to be careful not to slurp.
yeah, the thing I was gonna kind of mention is that if people were a fly on the wall in our office, because obviously everyone knows that me and you work together all of our lives. Since we started working, literally, we've been working in the same office and had desks next to each other. And if people were flying the wall in our office, I think they would imagine that we talk so much about our personal lives and stuff like that. But I think 99% of the conversation is literally to do with. People would be surprised to know that our conversations are literally all to do with like psychology, consumer psychology, like the mindset of like the elite performers with regards to like tech and stuff like that, and like a typical conversation is like, oh, your face, did you watch? No, sorry, Nate's just watching the football right now as we record this. Where can I hear the football?
That's you, Nate. He's got headphones and can't even hear it.
Oh, alhamdulillah, it was just a football match. Yeah, sometimes Instagram does do that. So anyway,
Just sitting watching football. Imagine. So funny. Yeah. We're talking about high-level performance agency. Nate in the background. Does enough of the job with football playing. We surround ourselves with high-level people.
No, but I'm saying that our conversations...
Nate's great. Nate's the best, just for clarity.
Our typical conversations are like, oh, yo, Fast, did you see this, or did you see what things said? Like, but not like, I don't think we ever gossip. Have we? Or hopefully we don't gossip a lot. So,
yeah, you're
okay,
right.
So first of all, how much does it matter that the H6 is on
Is it recording?
1 and 3, and it's not recording, but the mics that are plugged in are 1 and 2?
And it should be recording.
Okay, but is it affecting the...
No.
Okay, so we should also say...
So just hit record.
We should also say that...
But I didn't set levels on it, so...
Okay. Let me see.
So by the way, for disclaimer, this is the first episode we're
That's what I
doing
was gonna say.
live. Not live like live, but live as in live.
Like a live edit.
Live edit, yeah. So it's a live sequence. So normally we'd record, for example, on multiple cameras. We'd have the audio all recording separate, and afterwards Faisal would sit there and rewatch the episode and edit it all together, which is a lot of work, and I commend you for it. But we now, upgraded all the equipment, so we kind of have a live production studio now, so we can just hit buttons and everything happens. So that's why we have to figure all this out.
Yeah, so this is the first.
First one,
this is
yeah.
the first episode. This is kind of a test episode because this is the first
Quite
episode
hot
where
here,
we.
isn't it?
Yeah, this is the first episode where we are filming with all of this new equipment that's in the studio, and so that's why. In fact, do you know what I'm gonna do,
Everyone's
bro?
gonna be really surprised.
actually
I'm
gonna
not actually
film.
wearing black today.
I'm actually gonna film
It's the first time I'm not wearing
this on
black.
my phone, and I'm gonna show.
How mad is that? I think it's the first time I've ever worn coral.
Sorry, I was just filming. I'm gonna put that in there.
Probably the first time.
Yeah, so this is the first time we're filming an episode like this with different cameras, live editing. So as you're seeing the switches between me and Omar, like Nate's pressing the buttons, and so it's kind of like a test episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very geeky, but very
Yeah.
cool.
We're both like really excited.
Bro, did you see this video here? Oh my god. This is quite podcast inception, but Joe Rogan had it on his podcast. And there was there's this guy who does like Elon Musk face. What's it called? You know that live face transform thing? What's it?
AI. I don't know.
What's it called when you actually fake
Fake face.
live fakes? You know when
Oh, deep fake.
deep fake. That, yeah. Bro, and he's so funny. There's one guy I was talking to, like, it's Elon Musk to Mark Zuckerberg. I talk about how cool they are.
Oh really?
And the fighting over it. And Mark Zuckerberg goes, I'm infinity cool. And Elon Musk goes, I'm infinity cool +1.
That's not that funny, bro.
It is.
Maybe it's you had to be there.
No, you had to be there, yeah.
Bro, so do you know what I saw the other day? Yeah, I saw that. I came across this subreddit. Yeah. And I'm gonna tell Nate to check it out in a second. Yeah, but. It's called something like. Actually, no. Do you remember the other day I texted you and I said, "Have you ever considered why W is?"
Do you know why that was funny, by the way?
Why?
Because you can't get more than infinity.
Yeah, I know this. I know that's why it's funny. What did I text you? I said.
I found it hilarious.
I said.
Hilarious.
I said, "Wow, we text so much, bro. That I'd literally texted that yesterday, and I have to scroll up so much."
Man, this
You're the
t-shirt is
person
actually uncomfortable.
You're the person I text the most in the whole world.
Really? Oh wow. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, am
think
I not?
I text you a lot as well, yeah.
Who do you text more than me?
Probably you. I actually don't think I text anyone more than
Yeah,
you.
because you're gonna be at home with your missus
Yeah, it's you.
most of the time.
You even send me your Waze notifications.
Did you see that? I thought you'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I did appreciate it.
Where is it, bro? Okay, so basically I said,
I do like it when people send me that, but I also, like, sometimes people are saying to me, but normally people that are saying to me are people that
I'm late all the time.
I expect to be non-trustworthy, so I demand the Waze link.
Nah, it's nice, man. We're in the information age. I said, have you ever wondered why W is called double U when actually it's clearly a double V?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
And that's because I came across this like thing that had all this different information, and I also found out on this subreddit that like this might not be news to you, but like Costco, for example, and all these brands where they have their own brand version of items.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you go to Asda, they got Weetabix, and then they got Asda's version of Weetabix, and they do a lot of alcohol as well.
Designed the same as well.
Yeah, but do you know how the methods that they use for it? Do you know?
With the production methods.
Yeah. So there's like 3 different methods, but one of them, surprisingly, is that, so if we, for example, use alcohol, yeah, if Costco is getting like whiskey, and they, for example, this was the example they gave, what they would do is they'll sign a deal with Jack Daniels, who's a whiskey company, and they'll have an NDA, and they'll say we'll buy 10,000 bottles of you, but let's say, for example, the wholesale price is £20. They say we want to buy £15 with our own labeling, but we'll buy 10,000 of you. So because they're buying a higher value, they're willing to sell it a bit less and get their own labeling on it, and they sign an NDA. So it's the exact same product relabeled, and they got cheaper, and that's why they can sell it for cheaper. So for example, as the cornflakes are like £1.05, and the crunchy nut cornflakes are £2.50. But the reason they can, for example, mark it down so low is because they buy such a high volume.
So they've basically paid for that difference to the actual company anyway.
No, they haven't paid the difference. They're getting it cheaper.
They're from the same company.
from the same. That's one of the methods.
Okay, that's one of the methods to use.
Yeah. So
No,
that's
but what I'm saying is in the interest of the company then, because they're still selling their own product twice.
no. The reason it's in the interest of the companies because they're selling bulk. Because they're making money. They're selling bulk. They're saying, someone's making an order of 10,000 for us. Yeah, we'll make that.
No,
yeah.
of course.
But there's no other interest for that company.
No. What I'm saying is, if you got a shelf and you got cornflakes on it,
Yeah.
and you got Asda cornflakes on it,
Yeah.
they're both being bought from Kellogg's.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So Kellogg's
yeah,
are making money on their own
right.
product and on the Asda bought product.
Yeah.
So that's why they can also probably are okay with their competition as well, because effectively they're competing against their own product. The difference.
Because the question that someone put up is, why is it that it takes, like a company like Kellogg's, they only produce it takes them so long, or effectively they have a factory where they just produce cornflakes and other stuff that Kellogg's produces, but a supermarket can come in and make own brand versions of like every product that exists in supermarket. Like, how are they able to manufacture at such a high level? And the reason they do that is because they normally like white label those products,
Right.
buy it for a small margin. So the point is that oftentimes you might go to a supermarket, buy something branded, thinking that it's like worse.
That's actually a very good point. I never thought of that. Like how they can have such a large variation of products from home appliances and like detergents through to like biscuits. Yeah, it's all but not one company. Even if you have Procter and Gamble or Unilever, they still don't have that much of a range. They still are confined to their certain units.
Yeah, and Procter & Gamble is huge.
Yeah. It's very true.
So that's what they do. So
that was when I read subreddit. Yeah, I never thought of that. That's
but so especially
exciting, interesting.
But especially if you buy stuff like Fairy Liquid and stuff, there's no point. You know what I mean? But what is the difference if you buy Fairy Liquid and Asda Liquid?
I actually get only the Asda one because it doesn't irritate my hands, and the Fairy one does. But it's just brand though at the end of the day.
But that's my
isn't
point.
it?
So
That's
if you're
what it
paying
is.
less for it anyway,
If you're thinking about,
I understand with like quality of food.
Yeah.
But if you're paying for stuff like a Fairy Liquid, which washes dishes, and generally if it's being sold, it can probably wash dishes just as well as like a Fairy
But
one.
there's the reason
You save a pound.
brands, the concept of the brand is that holds the value, so that the monetary value is in the logo, is in the association. That's why they spend so much. So if a company will try and justify why they spend millions on advertising, it's because they're not spending millions to sell the product directly. They're spending millions to create an image, in your mind. They're owning. So if your brain has a certain like a wall of association that it can have for certain things, emotional triggers, they're trying to plaster that with like all P&G stuff or Unilever stuff because their brand needs to be there. So on that wall inside your brain, it's like, we associate with that. That's what they call de facto, don't they? So like Google, for example, de facto for search. So that's all it is. They spend millions to own that space in your brain, that when something happens, you say washing up liquid and everyone says Fairy. But they've paid for that space in your brain. And then the value is made up by the prices they charge. So then they'll charge like premium prices because they obviously got made their money back, but now you also hold it to such a high regard that you'll pay for it.
I was just picturing hummus because hummus tastes the same about away you get.
That's true. But I actually like Asda hummus.
Asda was very nice.
Yeah.
Did you see what happened recently in the news?
No.
Have you been to Asda recently for hummus?
No.
Bruv, Asda haven't had hummus for about 8 weeks. Bro.
I like where this is going.
Since Zachary was born, I ain't touched hummus, bro.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and recently they just got back. So it was on the news. They just had a hummus drought.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, I'm so intrigued by that
Hummus, chickpea drought.
by that supermarket stuff. Yeah, it's chickpea drought. I'm so
The hummus isn't growing.
I meant it in a metaphorical way,
I know
not in a literal way.
Well, what's the actual reason?
Did you know
Is
that?
there like a shortage in Morocco?
Bro, speaking of
Sorry? You got it up?
Oh.
It'd be good if we could see it, mate. The TV's facing the other way, yeah.
got it up on itself.
He's like, I can see it. Huh? What should you do? Hold on.
Oh, here you go. What's happened? As a precautionary measure.
Should have got a 4K screen here, innit? As a precautionary measure, Zorba Delicates Limited are recalling the 17 hummus products across the date codes listed in the table shown. Oh yeah, Nate. Now I can't read it. Date code due to possible presence of salmonella. This recall has been.
So now I'm quite happy that they removed it now.
Okay, well they're trying to protect you from disease.
Yeah, I was cursing them, but it makes sense. It's fine.
Cool. Nate, that's really cool. That we could, yeah. So that was the first time we've ever put an article on the screen and spoken over it live.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's really cool though, isn't it?
so just to round up my point, bro, it really intrigues me. But since I moved out and I have to be clever with how I spend my money, it intrigues me like why. I realize that the pennies really do make the pounds. And that sounds stupid, but it does.
The
like
penny do what?
the pennies make the pounds. Like for example, yeah.
Elaborate.
Does that have to be explained?
Yeah.
What? Pennies? If you
Yeah, I know pennies make pounds, but
saving,
what was you saying?
Because if you're saving pennies here and there, you're saving pounds.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
So, for example, all right, so we don't drink fizzy drinks in our house, but we always buy fizzy drinks, yeah?
As guests come over.
In case guests come
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
But considering we don't drink them anyway, and guests come over rarely, you can buy, for example, Asda lemon and lime 0, or you can buy Sprite 0. Both taste exactly the same, maybe from the same company after the information that we've just received. Yet one costs 55p and one costs £2.5. Bruv, I'm saving 2 nug, bruv, for something that I'm not even gonna drink. Not that I don't care
That's
about
how
my
much
guests,
you value your guests.
but there's no benefit. Like so, and with juices.
No, I hear you.
And that takes your weekly shop from being £50, from being £70 to being £50.
Yeah, I only noticed how economic I have to be with shopping until I had a second kid. But you know when you always would hear people say that kids are expensive and you know your shopping, and I always would think really like why is it so expensive? Like what is the thing? But you just that aisle. If you go down that aisle that kids stuff is on, everything is ridiculous. Like if you compare that to adult products, you would never buy anything because you'd be like, how can I spend £1 on like 5 little chew it type things? And it's like because of the pink face on it, you buy it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The price of the nappies, but it's the way it is.
What nappies do you buy?
You know what? We've been going for quite a transition actually.
Oh, really?
Well, we started with
Sainsbury's, didn't you?
No, we had Sainsbury's at one point
But
because they wouldn't leak.
Okay.
Then we would get we did Morrison's ones for a while actually. Well, when we lived in our old house, Morrison's was local, so we always just get Morrison's one. They were really good. But now there's not Morrison's nearby us, so we actually back to Pampers.
Pampers?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Sienna and Caden are the same nappy size. Can you imagine that?
No.
Same size.
Yeah, but
He's chunky.
Caden's chubby, yeah.
He's chunky. So no,
Big boy.
same nappy size, which it does make it a bit easier because I actually buy bulks of one size. But then I once made the mistake of buying so many nappies of one size, not thinking to myself that kids actually get bigger. So I thought she'd be like 1 year. So I bought like I think a size 3 and tons of them, and like the next week she went up one, and then they were thrown in the bin.
But Pampers must be expensive.
Yep.
Yeah. So why did you buy Pampers?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, because I buy at Asda, bruv. So I remember thinking, yeah, like when my kid is born, only the best. But when I saw the price difference, I said, bro, they're never gonna remember what nappies you're using.
Yeah.
Asda nappies I will find £2.50 for a big pack. But you know, as they go up in sizes, like size 1, size 2, size 3, they get more expensive.
Do they?
And you get less in a pack.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Bruv, size 1's
I really could imagine you guys being a guy that was really walking down and looking at the economics per unit of each nappy.
But because it doesn't look. Before I was like, so you know what my fear was? My fear was like, when it comes to money, I never want to be conjuiced.
Yeah.
I never want to be the person who's
especially
like,
when it comes to your kid.
exactly. But I never want to be like, oh no, we can't buy that, can't buy this, because I don't value money enough for that. It doesn't play a big enough role in my life. Not that I have loads of it, but because I don't. please hire me back, bro. I'm joking. But
You could do it fresh and grounded. Go to.
but because like I don't ever want money to be an obstacle for quality.
Yeah.
However, as you get older and you get more mature, you realize that it makes sense to save money on things that don't matter. So the quality nappies, for example, are great quality nappies.
Yeah,
So
I should try them. I probably will now. But I was making the point that I didn't realize how expensive things generally get of your weekly shop. You sometimes are surprised. And I think it isn't when you automate that a bit more, like when you become a bit more efficient in like, okay, there's things that we always get. We realize there's things that are always on the list. And I'm like, hold on a second. And all I'm doing every week is actually just minusing a few items and the rest are always the same.
Yeah.
So those we just end up getting bulk. And now we have a garage in our house. We did it before. So I just got racks in the garage. So like from coffee, mate, that we drink obviously coffee. We like
you buy in bulk, don't you?
Yeah, bro, like cotton buds and tissues. Bro, it's just stacked there, and it's just so much easier because actually now when we run out of let's say bin liners, it literally used to be, oh, can you run to the shop to grab bin liners, or don't forget bin liners on the way home. And now there's nothing that I need to just quickly grab because everything's there. The only thing is like milk maybe.
I need to do like one of those bulk buys on Groupon. I need to do one of those bulk buys on Groupon of like toilet roll and kitchen roll. I haven't done that, but I have done. I just recently done a bulk buy of wet wipes. About Huggies.
Oh,
Have you,
Huggies,
what website? You use what website?
We use Huggies. We have water wipes mainly, but we use Pampers. Shall
really
I be
use
honest?
water
I
wipes,
don't think
bro.
we really have any preference.
Your preference is water wipes, and they're so expensive. I can't believe you do it.
No,
But it's like £1.70
listen,
per.
I've just followed the rule book that's
tissue
been
or
given to me. I haven't even thought about it, but I should think about it.
But it's, you can save a lot of money on getting wet wipes.
Do you know what happens? Yeah, this is what happens to my brain. I get when Charles, do you need anything? She goes, yeah, don't forget to wear water wipes. I don't think that she's asking just for wipes. She just says water wipes.
She says
So
water
I write down
wipes,
water wipes. I get to the aisle and I pick up water wipes. I don't. None of us think. I think we both just assume wipes and we just water wipes come out. I write down. I pick it up.
But you know what? I do
But
put.
we should put some more thought into our words.
I do put a value on quality though, in the sense that I would pay more for wipes if. So one thing that I hate, I think this is Sainsbury's wipes that do this, bruv. Hate it. Yeah, I'm being so pedantic and it's so like first world problems. But you're cleaning a nappy, it's all crazy because he's screaming, and you pull out.
You're screaming.
Yeah, I'm screaming, bro. First half times I changed nappy, bro, I was, oh my gosh, bro. Imagine this, You're cleaning your baby and you pull a wipe out. And it's like a train of wipes because they don't detach. Bro, that feature.
Is that what Sainsbury's does?
Sainsbury's wipes do that. That feature where you pull one out and it detaches from the one above it is a service that I would pay premium price for, bro.
For sure.
Because at that time, I get angry. I'm like,
Come with a personal cutter guy or something.
Nate, can I get my Nate? Can I get my white snapback, bruv, in the other room? Sorry, my. Yeah, I know my go with it. And then my wig will fall off. I've got like Donald Trump hair, and like when the wind is blowing, and then all of a sudden,
are you really conscious about it? It's not.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, man. I don't know. I'm not conscious. I'm conscious of it, but my white camera one. It's not that I'm conscious of it, bro. But do you know what it is? When you got a close up, and you got like your hairline.
Isn't that bad?
You know what it's like? It's like
I think you're more conscious because it's you.
Yeah, but it's like people who. Yeah, it's people who like have spots and stuff, and wow, that spot, but no one else clocks it. I'll tell you what though, it's one of those situations where.
How does my coral shirt look now? Am I looking right?
I
feel very uncomfortable when I'm being black.
Yeah, it looks nice. It's one of those situations,
quite the vibrance.
where before I was online, I feel like my hairline was white, so I can't help but say Nazarlagi. Nazarlagi. You know Nazar? Nazarlagi. Yeah.
I know everything.
Okay, so. My overall point in all of that was this. There's a Reddit sub.
There's no hummus.
There's a Reddit subreddit, Nate, if you can get it up, called Explain to me like I'm 5 or something like that.
Has all these things in it.
Bro, it's an amazing subreddit.
Really?
Get it up, bro, and let's see. We'll see
What's the difference between Reddit and subreddit?
Reddit is a website.
Yeah.
Subreddit is the different like.
So they're not called Reddits. The English things aren't called Reddits. They're called subreddits.
No, they're called subreddits. Explain like I'm 5. There's some amazing stuff on it, but and it's just things that you never.
You know what I love? That's why
consider.
the only reason I love using Twitter is because I like to read the most strangest things.
This is the strangest stuff, bro.
Yeah, show me strange.
I was like, this is strange. And it's me on
face.
camera. Look, explain like I'm 5. Why can it be difficult to stay awake while driving, but when pulled for a nap, it takes effort to fall asleep? So there's some that are really interesting. Like, for example, one said this. It said, why is it that when you're watching TV,
Does it ask a question and have answers?
he has answers?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not just like a jokes thing.
Yeah, ponder your mind.
No. There's one that said, why is it that when you're watching TV, you start to fall asleep? As soon as you turn the TV off and you go to bed, you're wide awake, you can't sleep. And bro, what do you want the answer? Because and then like people who like specialize answer, I don't know. I'm guessing that they specialize, but you know what the answer for that is? Mad interesting. Okay,
TV
so
is more interesting than your thoughts.
No. So what happens is, imagine your thoughts to be we can't. Can we keep it there so that we can look at the thread in a second?
Yeah, well, I'll switch it when you want.
Okay, fine. Cool. Do you know what's worth doing, bro? Maybe getting 2 monitors.
Yeah.
One that Nate can see and one that we can see.
Yeah.
I can see what's on there.
Yeah, he's got a live display there as well. The red thing.
So why don't we just leave that facing us then?
It's just so we don't keep looking at ourselves.
Oh, okay.
But you can.
Well, I can't see it anyway.
Oh, it's fine.
Anyway, do you know what the reason for it is? The reason is that when you're watching TV, okay, imagine your brain to be like a conversation. All your brain departments are like a group chat, like a conversation with loads of people in a room, sitting around a table. What happens is when you're watching TV, one part of your brain is focusing on TV, so all the rest are just relaxing, and so you're zoned out. Yeah, because they like because this part of your brain, I can't explain it very well.
Is it because you don't have to think? Because your brain is just kind of consuming what's in front of it instead of having to really think and use itself. Correct.
And then what happens is when you go to bed, now you're not watching TV. it gives space for all the different parts of your brain to start talking. Yeah, so everyone's like, oh, me, and then I'm thinking this, as you're thinking everything, and they're fighting for space. But when you watch TV, that's what TV is telling all of them shush because I'm watching TV. And then when you're not listening to anything, they're all talking. And so that's why they say that you count sheep and stuff, because you're focusing on something. So it tells the other ones to shut up. So when they're all allowed, that's when you can't sleep, because your brain becomes. That's why you start thinking about the maddest stuff when you're sleeping, because your brain's just fully active. Everyone's like, yo, it's time to get up. It's interesting.
I was doing that yesterday. My brain was going off on one yesterday as well. And I was thinking I was tired, and you're just going deep into like ideas and thoughts. Yeah.
But did you see how I explained that to you? Like you're 5.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's what it is for.
All right, cool.
Let's see some other stuff on it now. Why is the bit boring? Why is it commonly understood that means yes? Look at that one. See, that's an interesting one that you never thought of. Why is it commonly understood that means yes and means no? Why is that? There'll be an answer, bruv. Look, click on it. This person said, I've tested this in many different countries with many different languages, and everybody seems to agree that means yes and means no. Why is this? And then the top answer would generally be the one that's been upvoted. So it says, I can't read that far.
Zoom in it. Press. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Both have blind with my glasses on.
Wait, can you scroll down a bit?
I thought it was the top one there.
Oh, no. Yeah,
So it says intonation and association of polarity by inflection mostly. This is association of upwards inflection and positive response. Downwards a negative response. It's like thumbs up and thumbs down, but with voice.
Oh, so hold on. Okay. It's like usually upwards means good, yes, and downwards is bad. But upwards intonation can also mean questioning. And tonal languages like Mandarin or Vietnamese are a whole other deal. If you say but with a downward inflection, it's like, right, sure, I believe you. Oh,
That's a bit of a rubbish answer. Should we go back? Because that's a rubbish
doesn't really
answer.
exist except when training dogs.
Oh, do you know what, Nate?
How do we get dogs?
Go back, space 1, to where you was at, and then go up to the top, and then click filter by. You see where it says hot? Mm-hmm. Filter by like top, and then go where it says today. Mm-hmm. Do like past year, this year. So now we'll get the good quality ones. So look, how do we get to a point where laptops and smartphones are in the same price range? That but I've already read that, so without it. Look at that. This is an interesting one. This is probably interesting, thought-triggering one, bro. Why is it that Mandarin and Cantonese are considered dialects of Chinese, but Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and French are considered separate languages and not dialects of Latin?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, let's open it.
It's a good point, right?
Yeah, let's open it. Have you read this one before?
Yeah, I think I've read it.
Okay. Oh wow. Let's go back.
Yeah, too much?
Yeah.
But basically,
But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying though. Yeah, it's very, very fascinating though. How do I look in coral? Yeah, look right. Yeah.
Are you conscious of how you look in coral?
Do you know what, bro? Because I always wear black or black. So
It suits you, bro. Okay, so anyway,
it brings out my face more.
What? What I was gonna say is, I know what you're kind of. So generally, what we talk about is.
That was half an hour ago.
I know. I don't know how I'm
What
like shifting.
digression.
I don't know how to shift the conversation over.
That's the longest point that anyone's ever made.
Every month or so, it seems like you're inspired by someone else, by their mindset.
Yeah.
So I think in the past, we'll go over it. Not to say, I've got a note here. Not to say that you're inspired by like their way of life,
I know what you mean.
or by their like what they do, but I'm saying like parts of their mindset. I think it's really cool. So for example, we've spoken in the past about people like Denzel Washington, Will Smith, and so it's not necessarily to say that Denzel Washington, we love everything he does and his way of life is the correct way.
Yeah.
But there's parts of his mentality when he speaks that's interesting, and it shows he's like an elite level of thinker.
Yes.
So Denzel Washington is a very high advocate of anti-social media.
Yep.
He hates the idea of being on social media. Will Smith is like a strong advocate on many things, just like a very strong. He's strong, for example, the idea of fear, overcoming fears, and that happiness is on the other side of fear, which is like a big, like a recent and common kind of like epiphany of his. But most recently, it seems that you've been really, really inspired by. What's his name again? Who's that Disney brother?
Bob Iger.
Bob Iger.
Yeah.
Why is it that your flavor of the month right now is? What does that even mean, by the way?
What?
Flavor of the month, does it have a negative connotation?
No,
Because I just
no,
told you so.
actually.
Okay.
I just laughed because I thought it
What
was
does
funny.
flavor of the month mean, Nate? Like,
Currently into.
what you're currently into?
Yeah.
I just hope it doesn't have like
Well,
a negative.
nah.
So why is it that Bob Iger right now is like the guy who you're like mad, like you're just into his psychology and you just love studying him? Why?
Well, I think there's the reason there's different people that I always admire is because there's so many people that perform at such a high level, and I'm always curious as to how they got there. So not the way the mind currently is, just understanding the way it currently is, but then also looking back at how it became to that. Like what did it take? Like what are the challenges you went through? And a lot of times, I draw most to people whose morals I like more than what they've achieved. So I don't. It's not necessarily someone who just achieved certain accolades. It's just people that even if they've achieved certain accolades or at a senior level in their life, they themselves hold morals very highly, and that I'm inspired by because as like we've been younger, and Bob Iger is probably one of the most highly advanced at that, and I'll explain why in a minute. But for example, we've always spoken ourselves as well. Why is it that role models or people that we want to look up to, especially in the Asian cultural space that we're in, why is there no one that we can find that is, yes, perhaps, incredibly successful in business or in charity or whatever they're doing in their life, but is sincere? Things are, when you speak to anyone, they have nothing but good things to say about them. People hold them in high regard. There's like these incredible integral traits that this person has. But who is that person? Do we even know who they are? I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying that we haven't necessarily come across them. And that always puzzles me because I would like to be amongst those that are considered reputable by others, that people are like, what, we his reputation precedes him. So that is important to me, and I think that starts with morals, and morals meaning things that you just do not waver on, that are like fundamental to you and for good reason. So why Bob Iger, he released a book recently called The Ride of a Lifetime, which is absolutely fascinating. I read it in like 3 days. But before that, I would hear about him. And when I'd hear about him, it was always when people would speak of him. And it would always be people who have like Oprah, Ellen, people who have also done great things in this space. And I'd always say that he's very highly respected. And that would make me curious. I'm like, who is this guy? Then obviously when he released his book, I was like straight into it because I wanted to know. And it seems that there is more the principles that he's had through the way that people have managed him over time. So a good example is he's been, the kind of the force behind getting Disney to acquire Pixar, Marvel, 21st Century Fox. There was one other one as well. Can't come to my mind. And these are such gigantic Star Wars. Sorry.
So what is he the CEO of Disney?
He's the CEO of Disney. Yeah.
But he obviously the founder of Disney is
20 years.
obviously Walt Disney.
Yeah,
Isn't
that's right.
And so Bob Iger is just like
Yeah, he took over at a point where Disney was going for a lot of turmoil, but he'd raised his ranks over the last kind of, let's say, 20 years before that.
I see.
When he started in like ABC Sports. In fact, even a company before that was then acquired by ABC. ABC was then acquired by Disney, and then he kind of raised through the ranks through there.
I see.
But the morals that he had through all of his kind of bosses, he held dear to himself. So how to deal with other people. So even if you had bad bosses, this is a kind of thing that we go through. When we have bad experiences, how can I not make myself be that same person to everyone else? But how can I channel how I felt and then ensure that other people don't have that same experience? So he, as a manager, always looks at things like, how can I make other people feel that that the things that made me feel good? So when he acquired, for example, Pixar was a company where people were very creatively proud of the work they did, that they had a certain identity that went with the brand. And the board at Disney were like, why don't you just hire the people? Why don't we just hire Steve Jobs and John Lasseter and bring them over?
Steve Jobs started Pixar?
Steve Jobs was a major shareholder. And
No
there's another
way.
guy, John Lasseter, and one other guy, I can't remember his name.
And Pixar's who create Toy Story.
Toy Story, for example. And Disney was going through a long run of unsuccessful animations at the time. This was like late 90s, early 2000s. And then Bob Iger managed to build a relationship with Steve Jobs, which in that story in itself is fascinating. But
Is Pixar its own company still, like a subsidiary of Disney, or is it just
correct?
Disney?
But this is one main example of his morals, is because the Disney board, from a business perspective, were like, why don't you just hire the senior team at Pixar and bring them onto Disney? But he said you can't hire these type of people because these type of people have great affiliation with the brand, the identity, how they feel, down to the point that when he acquired Pixar, he ensured that everyone at Pixar kept their own email addresses. Yeah. So it seems so insignificant to have at pixar.com, for example, but he understands from a emotional perspective, from a manager's perspective, how people are programmed to do their best work. And to me, that's fascinating, like, especially working around creatives. His whole book's around creative leadership. So, we work around creatives. We always have. We're creatives ourselves. But how can creatives' minds are different. They're not like the average, binary mind. They really require a lot of emotional thinking and programming. And you have to think about, okay, well, the things that make them work harder aren't the things that on paper would make sense. If someone said to you, oh, me having a Pixar email address makes me work better, you'd be like, what? Like someone who just didn't understand creatives would think that.
Yeah, because that's a very qualitative thing.
Right, but he understands that, and his whole journey is about that. So that's why someone like him I find fascinating, especially this stage I'm at right now, like in my life and what I'm managing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool, right?
yeah, that is cool. What book are you on right now?
I actually started to reread The Lean Startup by Eric Ries.
You don't like any of my book recommendations?
No, I don't know. I don't say I don't like them.
You don't ever listen to them.
But I think they're just different. We have different tastes. You like more things that... I know the type of books you like, but...
I like books that give me structure.
Yeah. But I like more... I love case studies. I think that's what it is. I love real case studies. I love like hardcore understanding what happened, why it happened, where it went wrong, how can it be fixed. I love just that. I love the depths of understanding.
But you don't give my books a chance.
I probably should give them a chance. I do apologize. But I just haven't yet.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at my
your
books.
Audible
I'm
books.
looking at my Audible books that I have. To be fair, I
Right
don't
now,
think
I've got,
you'd like any of these. I'm going to read them to you. Some of them.
I started Edward Snowden one recently.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't be into that. I read one. There's this one book that was really being promoted by a lot of people who called "So Good They Can't Ignore You" by Cal Newport. Have you heard that?
No.
I didn't really. It started to bore me a bit. What about algorithms to live by?
No.
Computer science for the brain
That's
for
not
human
good.
decisions.
I like that. I like that.
It talks about, for example, the problem of all right, let's say, for example, you're driving to a destination. So you're going to, perfect example is Jumu'ah. Yeah, when we go Jumu'ah, packed, so hard to find parking. This talks about, that decision where, hold on a second, what's that? Okay. Like when you're going to Jumu'ah, yeah, and you think, you see a parking spot, yeah, but you're like, it's still like a 5-minute walk. Could there be a parking spot like closer to the mosque?
Right.
Everyone goes for that thing, like when is it too late to
Stop
and grab that parking spot?
Yeah.
This book creates algorithms according to the human mind based on statistics for those
like
kinds
gambling, isn't it?
Right, but this creates algorithms for that kind of thing. So it's basically, this book is basically for that problem, statistically reported that after 33% of your parking spots, your potential parking spots, anything you find after that, go for that parking spot. Because statistically, that's your best bet of getting a decent spot.
Right. Okay.
So it creates algorithms for everyday human problems.
But I do like that way of thinking. I think anyway, that's sort of like kind of live analysis.
Yeah,
I enjoy that. I love thinking. Problem solving is very exciting.
I should finish that book.
I love problem solving creatively, like on the spot. It's so like, when you got to think about things and match things up, be like, okay, well, what would be the greater good in doing this versus this?
Yeah.
How do you do? You know what I mean? That you think like that as well, which is good. Just giving, but being very quick at it.
What are your top 3 books?
Assessment of what I've ever read.
Top 3 books right now. You can't say
right now
because you're in
Right
different.
now, right now?
Yeah, you're in different space right now than you would be maybe in 10 years or 10
No, but
years
there's
ago.
certain books that I have really enjoyed. Like I really enjoyed a book called The Hook Model, which is the psychology of like design, which is like one of my favorites. I've read that a few times. Definitely The Ride of a Lifetime, Bob Iger.
So Hook Model, Ride of a Lifetime, and what on?
I'm have to check in here. See what else.
What about that book? There's this book that
Blitzscaling.
looks-
Blitzscaling by Reid Hoffman. That was incredible. Yeah, definitely,
There's
that's
one
up
book
there.
that a lot of people speak about. It's
Love
called
that.
like
I'll read that again.
How to Build an App or something like that, or Millionaire Million.
Oh, yeah. There
How to
are
Build
some like there are some like that. Now, where I try to get a lot of the reason I enjoy reading certain books over others is because there's a lot of knowledge I can get from YouTube and podcasts on the go. So, for example, like Y Combinator, which is a huge startup kind of incubator in San Francisco. Like Airbnb was started there, Stripe was started there, for instance. They have incredible talks that they just put free on YouTube, and those I find fascinating, and I get so much insight from them that actually teaches you more than some of these kind of books would say on just like startups. So for me, that's fascinating. But then when I do listen to something, I love an autobiography. I love someone who's, for example, Blitzscaling is great because it's by Reid Hoffman, who one of the founders of LinkedIn, and he talks about that the concept Blitzscaling is basically the point at which you get product market fit in a company. When you're doing stuff bootstrapped, you get to a point where, okay, there's a real need for this market. Now you have to grow at exponential rate. Like you have to basically just go like this and boom. Yeah. That's Blitzscaling. And how do you deal with that? So it's so fascinating. At that point, companies raise millions in funding, and then you have to apply that. And yet a lot of these people are just raggo young guys who have never known how to manage a company before. So how do you go from that to become the CEO of Airbnb and Stripe, who are still the same CEOs who founded them? So it's fascinating. That's what it goes through, but with real case studies.
Do you want to know my top 3 books? Fine. If you just because you're asking. Yeah. My number one. So this is secular books outside of Islamic books. Yeah. My number one book is The Obstacle Is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I know I always talk about it. It's the best book in the world. Yeah. Right, outside of Islamic books.
But I know that's so your book,
bro.
Yeah, that's okay. That's your type of book.
Do you know who else loves that book? Hamza Zortis.
That's great. Yeah. It's a good book.
Okay, The Obstacle Is the Way by Ryan Holiday. The 4-hour work week. That sounds so stupid, yeah.
No,
because
that is good as well.
I always thought that book was such a.
I know what you mean. Like cliche, just putting a book out. Like
how to make money in public. But the 4-hour work week is amazing.
It's really good.
And then my most recent book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Bro, Atomic Habits is such a good book.
Bro, by the way, I do. You know why? A lot of times, maybe I won't. I'm very weird in the sense that I'm very weird at taking recommendations from anyone. Yeah. When it comes to that,
you have to find stuff yourself.
Yeah,
that's why I say you can teach a man to fish. You can give a man fish or something, but teach him how to fish and he'll eat for a year or for a life. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. You know that fishing thing, yeah.
Give a man flip flops and.
But that's like you. Yeah. That's like you. Like you don't really take recommendations, which is fine. You're just arrogant.
But also,
you're just arrogant. I'm joking.
I just struggle through life. No, but I also you share all this information with me anyway, which is nice because you always share the good parts. So
I share the good parts. Yeah.
So you do all the hard work.
And to be fair, I don't read Reid Hoffman or.
Yeah. But you have different interests. That's what it is. Yeah. If you listen to some of the stuff I listen to, you'd be like, bro, why you listen to this? Yeah. Because I'm just fascinated by those type of things.
Shall I tell you what else fascinates me, bro? One thing that really, really fascinates me, but I've never figured out how to do it, is like owning a conglomerate or having a monopoly. And the biggest inspiration I find for a monopoly is
Jeff Bezos.
No. Oh. Which is obviously probably that should be it because he's the richest man in the world.
Cool.
So anything I mention now is gonna be worse than that. So I just haven't had a better idea. It sounds really rubbish. It's the and boring. It's the
boss from corner, boss from down the road in the shop.
Boss man down.
Boss man at fish and chip shop. God.
It's the American eye industry, like opticians and stuff. Yeah. It's amazing, bro. So basically,
sorry, you're talking about industry, not person.
I'm talking about industry.
Okay, cool.
Bro, that industry is owned by one company. So what they do is they own all of the opticians, or all of the big opticians, but they make it out just like how Coca-Cola does it, and Coca-Cola is another example where they make it out like they're competing against each other. All these different opticians.
Yeah, you told me this.
And then what happens? But the parent company is benefiting from all of these opticians and benefiting from the competition. Yep. Then and they obviously are just producing in one set. Then what happens?
This is what you're talking about. The baby powders, Aptamil and SMA. Right?
Yeah. So I'll tell you about that. I'll mention that on the podcast as well because that will benefit a lot of parents.
Yeah.
Then what happens, bro, is that in itself is quite inspiring that they've managed to create an entire market where they own all of the major players in it and they're playing off against each other, but they're benefiting either way. No matter what opticians you go to, you're benefiting the same company. But what's even more inspiring about it is that sometimes you have to go to like the eye hospital. They also own the eye hospitals and the insurance companies.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're benefiting from. They're creating the problem.
They create the problem, the solution, and the insurance that you have to pay. It's all owned by the same company.
That's
so
incredible.
The entire cycle, no matter what problem you have, is owned by them. So they create the problem and the solution. So like the opticians will send you to the hospital. For the hospital, you have to have insurance. They provide the hospital and the insurance and the opticians. They provide all of them.
But
amazing industry.
But the biggest companies in the world do that. Like Facebook does that as well.
I'm not saying that's because that might not be ethical. But just if take ethics out of it,
Yeah, yeah.
from business perspective, to create the problem and
for
create the
sure,
solution
for sure.
and benefit of both of them is mad. And like you said, if you have, if for example you use powdered milk, what do they call it? Like formula powder to feed your baby. Aptamil is about £13 for a box, and Cow and Gate is about £7 for a box, yeah, or £8 for a box, depending on where you go. So there's about a £3 difference, yeah. Now that makes a big difference when you're buying a box every week. So 369 12 £12 a month, 12 times 12, whatever, 240 quid in a year, something, yeah. Is that right? I don't know.
12 times 12.
It was 12 times 12.
Stump me.
No, 12 times 12 is not 240. I don't know what I did. Huh?
I don't even know what you're talking about right now. I'm talking about baby milk, but how did you get to that
No,
number?
£144.
All right, cool, yeah, go on.
No, but then you start buying, regardless, you're throwing away money is my point. Cow and Gate and Aptamil are priced differently, yeah?
Aptamil, you know, is not. Oh, £12. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. The two companies, so I read online that it's owned by the same company. So I was like, let me do some research on this. Went into Asda, checked, yeah.
Oh, they are. You checked this. All right, cool.
I've checked it.
Yeah, yeah.
The exact same company owns Aptamil and Cow and Gate,
That's
yeah?
amazing.
The exact same company. Look at the ingredients are exactly the same. And then I thought to myself, hold on a second. The ingredients have to be the same because there's a legal requirement, because baby food is such a sensitive thing. There's only a very few amount of things that can go in a baby. Yeah. So what can legally go inside the baby is set by the law. So they're not even allowed to change the formula. So the formula isn't different between the two anyway, because there's legal requirements.
And one's just considerably cheaper.
One's just cheaper,
How much cheaper?
about £3 or £4.
Okay.
And it's the exact same company, exact same milk, exact same ingredients, exact same powder, everything's exactly the same. To the point where the box is even exactly the same. They just change the color on the box.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah.
And they
The
change,
red and blue.
and the difference between it is like £3 or £4, and there's absolutely no difference in the actual product, and it's both owned by the same company. So what they do is they're benefiting of creating a cheaper product for the market and a more expensive product for the market. Aptamil was seen as like, and I think that the reason for it, because then I discussed this with Dad as well, because I don't know, I was just I think I was around him a few days later. So I was talking to Dad about it. And Dad was like, the reason for it is that Aptamil in China is seen as like a really like high quality product. It's like a Chinese product. I can't remember. Okay. So it has like a really high value in China. And so that's why I don't know what I can't remember what he was saying. Point is, overall, that they're both the same company and they both benefit. They're benefiting off that fight.
It's mad how people do create stuff like that.
It's amazing, bro.
It?
And Coca-Cola do that on a mad level.
Yeah, because there are so many different brands.
They own Fanta, Sprite, Coke, Diet.
Yeah.
They own the only real competition for
Smart Water. They own, don't they?
Yeah, Smart Water. They own. I think they even own the other flavored water, which is
Vitamin water. They own.
Do they own Lucozade? Maybe I'm not sure.
They might do.
But
they might do.
The only real competition for Coca-Cola is
Pepsi. Yeah, but Pepsi don't own that many different brands, I don't think.
No, but for the actual Coke itself.
Oh, yeah, Coke
have you seen Pepsi branding every Christmas? It's like, let's start a new tradition this Christmas, and it's Pepsi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really cool branding.
Yeah, because Coke come out with a whole like Santa Claus thing and everything.
Yeah, Christmas is like linked directly to Coca-Cola. You know, Coca-Cola are the ones who started Santa Claus, invented Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Mad. Oh, just the color. Sorry, just the color of him being red, wearing red gums.
Man, it's amazing, bro. When you think into like how things are created, I think we were speaking about this last week. Remember in the office when we were saying how we get so caught up in certain cultural situations, whether it's politics or X, Y, and Z, and these are generational topics. Yeah, that over time, that no one actually knows the source of it. So, for example, like we're talking about Santa Claus and Coca-Cola, for example. Over time, things are just accepted for the way they are because they become culturally ingrained. So, like, kids now grow up to learn certain things then they get weaved into the national curriculum. Like, who decides? If you really deep it, who decides national curriculum? You know what I mean? How do things get into national curriculum? Like the history that goes into it. How fact check is that? You know what I mean? Now Santa Claus is seen as being read in the national curriculum. You know what I mean? But that came from Coca. How did that link happen? At what point did someone? Yeah, at what point did someone say, "Oh, that's fact. Kids should be learning this." These things are fed through down to the next generation that are then bringing that up and going back again. Right. So. These are also done by very smart people in very controlled ways that are intentional. So, and that's happening in today's world. Like things are set about like every single thing. No one person had the thought No, not two people had the same thought at the same time. Yeah, meaning the word Brexit wasn't thought about. Two people weren't sitting at the same time saying Brexit. Someone thought of it. You know what I mean? And then whoever took the baton and made it into where it is what it is. But like with anything, everything is intentional. You're supposed to be forced into a certain frame of mind. You're supposed to be forced into it's convenient. And then these talk about this in quite a few of these type of books as well. How us as it's very interesting because of design, and the reason I love design is because design allows you to see the very nature of things being created for an intent. Or so you're creating something for someone to do something without them knowing that they're going to do it, but you're creating that. So if you think about it, if I design a blank page, I design like a layout on it, I want you to do something on that page. You don't know that you're going to go on it. You're going for the first time, and you're probably going to do. If I've designed it well, you're going to do what I want you to do. But you have an independent mind. But me knowing how psychology would work would design you to do that. Now think about that in the world, in the general world and news. It's because it's convenient for humans not to think, and we're lazy-minded. So the things are planted to make us think in a certain type of way.
But I'll tell you one of the deepest reflections on your point about like how do people decide what's in the curriculum and stuff. One of the deepest ones that I think people it goes over people's head is the social norm for a sleep pattern. It's been ingrained in us for generations that 8 hours sleep is the amount of sleep that you need, and you have to take your whole 8 hours sleep in one go at night time. Yeah, but bruv, that concept has been it has been ingrained in us because of consumerism, because the 9 to 5 working day is what is needed in order for consumerism. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Yeah, so because of that, they've it's been like passed down generations that it's best to sleep in the big 8 hour chunk between like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and then work all day 9 till 5, and then you sleep at 11 till 7. But if you look at sleep psychology and sleep analysis and stuff, it's better, like the Sunnah says, to sleep in small chunks throughout the day, to get a nap halfway through the day, and to not load all of your sleep in one go. Because sleep doesn't work like... you can't catch up on sleep. Like, it's not like, it's not like, yeah, like you can't catch up on it necessarily. Like if you haven't slept for 2 days, you're gonna have maybe a longer sleep, but you can't generally like catch up on, like grab all your sleep
like
and catch up on it.
system,
Yeah. So that's not how it works. And if you speak to sleep experts, that's not the best way to sleep. A big 8 hour chunk. And the Sunnah doesn't teach us that. But it's best for consumerism.
Wouldn't it be interesting to really understand that how us as humans, like the issues we have and the problems we have, like could be health issues or whatever it is, or fatigue, or how much they're linked to this irregular, well, quote unquote, regular pattern.
Mad, bro.
Isn't it? Like how different will our body be? Like how do we know what the maximum, what does the most optimum life look like?
It's also weird that people work, even us, because me and you are quite strict that we do a Monday to Friday 9 to 5, and I'm strict on that because people ask me my working hours quite often, and I often tell them that my working hours, to the best of my ability, are Monday to Friday 9 to 5. I've like injected myself into the system on purpose because I feel like I want to give my family their due rights at a proper time. But how crazy is it that we work 40 hours a week, and that's a majority of our week is, or majority of our days are spent working, when there's so many other things that we can be doing with our life, but it's just decided that we're going to work. The norm is to work.
So there's an interesting point that someone raised on this somewhere, I think it was on a podcast, where we obviously like to keep ourselves busy because the idea of stasis, the idea of nothing moving, only makes us scared. It reminds us of death. You know what I mean? When you're still. So imagine we're like a day off. Think about the word day off. Off from what? Off from life. You know what I mean? Like, what are you off from? So even if you deep that's quite interesting. So it's the fact that you're still. The idea of being still is considered being off.
I hate that.
Yeah, but we all do, because we're also made to, first of all, as men, to hunt, to be out, to be, gaining something. And the idea of progression is what keeps us going through life. The idea of getting older, the idea of achieving things, the accolades. And then the entire concept of receiving accolades and wanting more accolades. If you ask anyone what they would love to achieve, they're in their wildest dreams, and then you give it to them, they'll want something else that's in their wildest dreams. So they never dreamt of what was in their wildest dreams because they'll never get to it, and we know that. But then at some point throughout our entire journey, you're going to want more and more and more progression, and boom, you chopped off, you're dead. You know what I mean? In the pursuit of trying to get there. So if you can align that pursuit with something that is they're not going to progress here, but that's why we have religion and we have the life after as well. That is an association that can keep you motivated, even in stasis. You know, so that concept for the average person, let's say someone who doesn't have a faith or some deeper belief, it can be scary, because then what are you measuring it against? Because you don't want to be still. So that's why it's scary, why we always want to be doing something in our working week. We want to feel like we're getting up, okay, now we're going to work, we're going to progress. This idea of it makes us feel like, okay, we're achieving something, but ultimately we're existing to die, and we have to be working to that. But we get lost in that. Because what's wrong with being at home right now with your kid? Nothing.
Yeah, but socially, that's like, because even if you had the right amount of, even if you had the finance, because ultimately you're working for finances, right? So you can sustain your life and your family. But even if you had enough finances to sustain your life for 6 months, it's almost socially wrong to stay at home.
But you still want to stay at home because of the way we're designed, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the things that you're doing should link to something. You know, look, you have to tap into different parts of your mind. We all have creative aspects of our brain, and it's good to feed it. You know, so you should feed the creativity in your brain, whether it's coming up with ideas. That's why people, like, even, for example, have conversations with dad. Dad's a creative person. I'd say pretty much everyone, our mum and dad down to their kids, we're all creative in some way. You know, for Saba with fashion, you know, Zara in certain areas, me, you, like, we all have this kind of creative traits. And our parents, I'm sure, have those as well. And they do. Mum has been like that, dad does too. So dad loves to express his ideas. You know, we love to feel like we're expressing ideas. That's a creative part. Then we have the part where we like to instill ideas into other people, give information. You know, so we have all these different things. Then, of course, you have your nafs, you know what I mean? Your internal desires. You have your the spiritual side of you, your soul. So imagine all these things have to be balanced carefully, you know? So it'd be wrong to say that, okay, I'm only going to do this one thing and only focus on that, because then you would be cutting off the blood supply to all those other areas that need to be invigorated as well. But I do think we have to be conscious of the balance and then what is linking towards. And if we're doing it towards things that don't matter, then that's where we'll feel empty.
And another thing is you know, this concept, because I took some time off recently, obviously, because of Zakaria. So I took about 6 weeks off in total, which I didn't I was meant to only take a month off, but I ended up taking 6 weeks. When I came back to work, I think on my first day, I came back home and I was like, raw, my brain is hurting, it's proper aching. And so before that, I had looked into it, like why, I just wanted to know if there's a link, like if it's psychological. Well, by its very nature, it is psychological. But in the sense that if it's anything I say is so funny, like, it is literally what I was going to say, if it's in my head, but it is literally in my head. Anyway, the point is,
That's a Seinfeld thing to say.
I was trying to understand the reason, if there's a link or not. Yeah. So what it is that the brain is a muscle, and just like any other muscle, like when you go to the gym, if you haven't worked out in a while, it's a bit more difficult, and you have to train that muscle. And so what happened is, for 6 weeks, I wasn't training that muscle of mine that was constantly used to working. So I went from 6 weeks of no work to go back to my very busy schedule of full on work that I'm used to. And my brain was like, I can't work this fast. I'm not used to it. I can't lift that heavy anymore. You know what I mean? You have to lift, when you go to if you miss gym for a bit, you can't just start benching 100 again. You start on a bar and then you build your way back up. And I thought I'll just go straight back, and it hurt, bro. And so it's the exact same concept. Yeah. By the way, you need to start using that working hands thing again,
bro. You know
what happened?
Bro, this is actually a good day.
No, why? Have you been using the working hands
moisturizer? Every winter, during the winter, my hands get like this.
Oh, that's my lips get tight. But have you been using the working hands thing? Because that worked last time, remember?
I do have that.
Last winter, I said...
Since I changed rucksacks, when I went to LA, I changed rucksacks, and I sent my old rucksack. That's the truth. But I do have a cream here that I use.
That
I have this Garnier one that I use. Yeah. I need to get out of my rucksack.
That's very good.
Yeah, it was really good, bro. It just and then what doesn't help is that when I'm cooking, certain oils and onion juice and stuff will go into that and make it worse, because obviously that will just invigorate it. So then I get these cuts. I know it is annoying, man. I literally look like I have I was about to say 30-year-old thing is really old.
30-year-old got 30-year-old hands. Oh no! Time's ticking, boys.
That's how you know how much of an idiot.
Exactly. Have you seen Nan's hands are the funniest? I took Zachary to see Nan yesterday. Bless her. She's so cute, man.
Oh,
She's
what'd
like
she
done
do?
everything for. She was like, I just spent loads of times with him. Because what happened, brother, is he was being mad noisy, and he just
spent a lot of times with him.
he needed to do a poo in it.
Okay.
But he managed to do one. He done the biggest one, bruv, and he went all through onto his clothes and everything.
Really?
Bless him, man. So
She sorted it out?
I made Nan sort it out. Yeah.
Mm.
I started. I was like, Nan, you know what? This is a bit of a madness.
Yeah, that's a nice thing when you guys. Yeah.
When you go to Nan's house, they do it.
You gotta start having a relationship with your son when he does it when you get there. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you'll just
yeah.
let
Look,
you
we're
know.
going to Nan's
Yeah,
today.
I mean,
Just
she'll sort you out.
hold it in for 10 minutes.
Yeah, how have you found it though? Like the whole transition of now fatherhood.
Bruv, you know this is stop work. Bruv, it's not got an SD card in it.
You joker.
So there's no backup audio.
No, that is supposed to have an SD card in.
Yeah.
Did you think you just worked on the thing like the other stuff?
I just pressed. I didn't know if he didn't have SD card or not.
Sorry,
You said
maybe I
press
should
record.
explain that.
But it's
Yeah.
obviously audio's obviously been recorded on.
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but
We just don't have backup.
yeah, but that's supposed to operate as you would have normally operated it.
Fine. But what about the cameras? The cameras don't have SD cards.
They don't need it because they're going into the recorder. So is the
I
audio. The
see.
audio is going into the recorder. So nothing needs to be recorded there because it's been picked up on the channel, the mixer. But your that is independent because it's just an independent split.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to check the time that we were doing this for. So okay, does it have a timeline on there, Nate?
I can't see one, no.
So we don't know how long we've been recording for. Normally we would have done with the
Unless
H6.
I press something on here that shows me.
No, don't do that.
To affect the channel.
It's fine. Yeah. So, bro, it's going. The biggest thing that it's taught me, the whole parenthood thing, is how much I enjoy systems. I was speaking about this with another guy that was on the podcast, Mohammed Andalusi, and I was saying that systems are. You know what it is, bro? I think that I've understood that humans are habitual creatures, yeah, and I used to fight it so much. Like, I want it to be that guy who no one could ever know, like, what I'm doing next. Like, sometimes I wake up at 6 a.m., sometimes I wake up at 10. Like, you don't know where I'm at. But I realized that if you just accept that as humans, we are creatures of habit, you can really profit off that with your time. Like, really and truly, there's not really people out there who are, like, waiting to understand your habits so they can capitalize off. You know what I mean? But, you do think, like, you don't want to be predictable.
Yeah.
But it's just stupid because generally it's so amazing to, like, have systems for everything. And so I've made it very clear on this podcast that I have, like, a very strict morning routine that every morning I have the exact same routine. And if something's off with it, my whole day kind of, like, messes up because I just like to have everything in systems. As I've matured, I've realized the advantage of systemizing everything. And so having a kid, one small example of it is that, like, I don't know if you do this. I don't think you do. When you change, like, for example, a nappy, do you just change it wherever? Like, okay, there's a nappy, change it, chuck it on the floor.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. I have a nappy station.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in my house, I've created this station, which always has and it's on a table, and it has the nappy mat on it,
Yeah.
and
Everything in the sides.
it has one of those like really cool, like, baskets that has all the different compartments, and it's got nappies, hand gel for me, nappy sacks, wipes, and all kinds of stuff for us. Yeah, so that when now he needs a nappy change, you take him to the station, and everything is there. It's like a checklist. Boom, 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 boom. Right next to you, got the nappy bin, toilet bag, in nappy bin, done. That system now I've got so on lock that I just love the fact that I'm always prepared for him to need a nappy change.
Yeah.
I just love the idea of being able to systemize more and more and more things. So, like, for example, I know another thing we systemize is that he's going to need a certain amount of bottles before he sleeps. So you sterilize the amount of bottles, or that. For example, if he vomits all over his outfit, there's a specific drawer that has
All the straws for you to suck it up with.
the correct one compartment has the baby growers that are his size currently. One has his Veers, one has his, like, muslin cluster. The more I can systemize, the more I'm only using it to my advantage.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that you can't systemize everything in life, and you have to be able to. I'm very bad at dealing with things that go wrong. I'm not prepared for it. But if I can minimize the amount of things that could could not go.
Well,
to
you're
the
being
system.
organized. And I think that's good. I think it's very good. And that's a bit like why I've stocked up so much stuff and
It's nice to have
So I do
that.
think it's good. But what I would also say is that over time, naturally, you to become equipped with like things just like driving, it's like second nature. So you're probably, because we are quite different in certain ways. Like I can probably be a bit more flexible with like things on a whim, but there's some things that we used to say that have now gone out the window, and I don't know where they went. I don't know when things changed, so that's why they're like just like change nappy, whatever they are. But we do are still.
Yeah,
but
it's
I'm
not ideal, my
systematized
solution.
with, for example, bottles. Yes,
Yeah.
like we do have a basket for bottles. We know how many need to be done. We have like I do a morning routine, Shaz does the evening routine.
Yeah, we have
Like
that.
yeah, so we have like roles, but they only set in, to be honest, with Caden. Like we didn't used to do that so much with Sienna. We were really like playing it by ear. So you're a lot more organized than even I was, to be honest. But now with two of them, we have to be. Otherwise, it's a nightmare.
But it's interesting because I've always been anti-system. You
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
remember when you set up my Google Chrome browser
Yeah.
so that as I open Google Chrome, it's like everything's systemized for me, and I hated that.
Yeah. Well,
To this day, that opens up on
Really?
Chrome.
Oh god.
I like open up Chrome. It's like feed source login, feed source email, like Trello, Zendesk opens up.
I definitely enjoy. That's kind of why we've done production like this as well. You know, anything that like, I don't know, man. Time is a resource, man. Like as soon as you see time as like currency or resource, I just can't be wasted. I don't feel like you should do anything more than you need to.
Yeah, I'm maybe also like over praising myself in the sense that I'm not that systematic with things. At the same time, like I'm
you're
I'm the type
towards it,
I'm the
you
type of
are.
person that's very stuck in his ways. Like I hated the idea of doing this. What you've
Yeah.
done, it's amazing, and I see the advantage of it now. But I hate change so much that I say I am like, well, it causes me no issues, and Freshly Grounded is going fine with just having one camcorder, press record. We've got a canvas, you know what I mean? But you're the one who pushes, says, nah, it has to be like this, which I think that's why it's good because it works
It
well. Like,
balances out, yeah.
yeah.
I think you do have to look, because it comes with an investment. You know,
Yeah.
so you have to pay for that luxury in a sense. But then when you compare it to your time, and I remember speaking to you about this idea before you even had Zachariah, which was like, if you can optimize your time to just sit down and record and leave, then man, you can go home to him. Like these are really, really important things because they save so much time, and then or the time you do have additionally, you can spend on doing other things that help. But you're effectively doing the same thing twice by sitting down and talking and then editing. You know,
What if you can edit while you talk?
yeah, there's no actual benefit of doing it that way. You know, if there was a real benefit, it's different, but there's not. So
The other thing that you do that I think that I am very much so inspired by is you hate hearing that something's not possible. You
Right.
can't stand it. It's like your biggest pet peeve. If someone says no, we can't do that, you're instantly say, but why? Why can't we do it?
Yeah.
And then you figure out the way. And like that, for example, you did with this system here. I was kind of saying to you that in order to do this system is going to require like a £6,000 to £10,000 budget. And for you, it was like, no, why? And you kind of just figured it out in a much smaller budget. So, and I remember the other day someone said something to you about that something can't be done, and you just said why, and then you figure out yourself. So, I like that because I'm a bit of a conformist. Like, if someone says you can't do something, I'll just conform, be like, all right, cool. Like, I've made the effort to figure it out, and they've said you can't.
But you are very self-resourceful, and I think that's what it does boil down to. So you do have those, like, knowing that you do that even more so is like, look, I can handle it, I can do it myself. Being independent, that's a very strong trait. I think it's really important to be like that, where you can be resourceful and know that, look, I have the ability to get what needs to be done. Even if it's not to the best of your ability, you still end up getting the job done. With like FG, for example, like I can end up delaying things because I'm trying to get it done.
Yeah, that's definitely our difference.
yeah.
I talk to people about that a lot. It's like, I have the trait where I'd like to, if I want to get something done, I'll just get it done regardless of it being perfect. And you prefer to create something perfect and then do it. You want to make sure it's perfect first. But I see the advantage in both traits.
Yeah. I'm definitely trying to find balance to be more happy with like a medium result. I think that's just my own, I think, OCD with what I expect of myself. And I think I'm always, I was speaking to Nate about this as well. We went to a chicken shop and had like horrible design on it. And we were just speaking about how, like there's a feeling when like Nate, for example, takes a great photo, there's a feeling inside you that's like, oh, that is of a great level, that's of a level that I'm proud of, that's a level that feels good. And I feel like that towards most of the things that I do. Is like it's so hard to explain, the feeling of like, whether it's like the feed source website, whether it's the production efficiency or anything, even at home, certain small things, like it just doesn't feel about a guilty chef when I did that. But I really do think it comes to, just because I try to be reasonable, but it's when I know it can be achieved. And I don't want to undermine that. Like, I know it's possible. It just requires effort. And I like to use lack of effort as an excuse. So for instance, if I can make, like, for Guilty Chef's a great example. Like, there's so many, for so long I was like sharing stuff on my socials. I'm cooking, and people like share recipes. And I would try, but in my mind, I always knew that even before then that I know I can make a great looking cooking like recipe packed in, like it's possible. And the only thing that would stop that is lack of effort, not anything else, not lack of resources. We have the resources, we have the cameras, we have everything. There's nothing aside from my lack of effort. So when I hold myself accountable to that, that's where I think that I clash with myself, because it's like, but now when you obviously have children, you have a wife and family, though that even in our household, it's funny, it was yesterday morning that so yesterday was a day where normally Caden gives us all a very hard time, because he's a tough sleeper. So Shaz normally handles him and deals with it and soldiers it through the next day. And I actually didn't appreciate that enough until she was really tired and she said, "Omar, can you just do tonight?" Because I normally have Sienna. So I did Caden that night. And then every hour he was awake. 8 a.m. I was crashed. Yeah, so I went to sleep for a bit. Then she went to sleep. And that whole day she texted me while I was asleep. So I'll see when I wake up saying, is it okay if I get some sleep after you? Just catch up on my sleep. I know you've got work, but it would just make me like so much happy if I could rest. And the fact that she had to ask, because she knew the way like I get aggy, like if I'm not like getting that thing done.
Aggy like that,
like she had to. But it's just, and then when she woke up and she spoke to me in the evening, she goes, "I was laughing at this with your sister," because Zara stayed at my house the night before. That she was saying that I can't believe Omar's sleeping till 12. Or that the next day, I guarantee he's going to do something. It was funny because at that very moment, I just come back from the gym. But it's just that feeling of like the effort of like, I even as I say it, it makes my blood boil, because like I just have that weird charge in me that just wants to just do something.
But you know what? I think that's all men, because I was reading this thing that was saying something like men have this thing with their wives, and most women deal with it so great. Most wives do it so great. I think anyone who's listening to this right now, whether they're a wife or a husband, can both relate to this. Men have this thing that when they're motivated, bro, they talk to their wife and they're going, "Yo, I just want to do this and I want to do that, and then this happened and this happened, and if only I can create it like this, and blah, 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 blah." They're just going in. And the wife, like, when she notices that her husband is in that zone, a great trait from a wife is when she pretends that she's listening. She's like, yeah. And that's all a man needs. He doesn't need you to listen. Yeah. He just needs you to feel like someone's listening, because he's just talking through his own thoughts. Yeah. Like, bro, I almost every day, bro, I go home from work, I'm like, it's mad, because like if we can sell out the Aldrich, then maybe we could do this, and then like I don't know, maybe next year we could do a world tour, and then if we do a world tour, I just got to figure out like how do I pay for all the plane tickets? Like, do we do it for the company or like do we? And all I need from her, I don't need her to go, you know what? If you just maybe what I don't want is for her to go, yeah, you're right. You know what? If we book the flights through, some people we can book the flights from here, and other people we can get them a helicopter. I'd hate that, bro. I'm like, what do you mean? Don't come in on my idea. But I just need her to pretend like she's listening. And so, but wives have this great thing where they're great at pretending like they're listening, and that's all we care about. We just want, because you're just talking through your own thoughts. And there's another thing that Dave Ramsey says that that wives have,
the gut.
Yeah, he says in one of his talks, he says, men, your wives have an extra kind of like organ that you don't have, called like the security gland.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah? And he says what that is that a wife wants to feel secure. Yeah, and men don't have that. Men have this risk thing where they don't care about security, because what overrides them is like passion and stuff like that. Whereas generally wives have this thing called a security gland. This is what Dave Ramsey is saying, and what that is she wants to know that if everything messes up, that you guys are secure. You know what I mean? Like family secure, children are secure, and she doesn't like the whole like riskiness of things. And then that, because he obviously is a finance guy, so then he's speaking about the fact that like you need to have like a finance plan, or you need to have like a saving, like an emergency fund, and that kind of stuff. So his idea basically is that if you create an emergency fund, a 6-month emergency fund, which is like, if anything, however much, let's say for example, you need £2,000 a month to survive, pay all your bills, food, everything. Then that would mean that you'd need £8,000 in the bank sorry, 6 months would be £12,000. So you need £12,000 in the bank, and now you can survive for 6 months. He said if you create that emergency fund and your wife is aware of it, that gives you much more leeway to do the risky stuff, because that security gland is like almost like
feel
satisfied.
feel satisfied. No, that's a good point. I was gonna say, don't you think that you get like well, I feel this anyway, but I was just wondering if you agree that when you have a certain trait with your wife, where like a rapport, where you have integrity in your words, you have like a certain credit line almost you build up of taking risks, where it's the first time it's very challenging. Like over time it becomes easier and easier, because what happens is she starts to believe and trust, okay, he's a man of his word, but also someone who takes the things he says seriously. And I think it's obviously any person, but especially your wife, who you spend your entire life with, who the last thing she wants is a guy who's, you can be passionate, you can be on your ideas, but just, never materializes or never gets on with it. It's always talk. So, I mean, you definitely, I suppose, subscribe to that, because you've spoken about selling out the order which, and mashallah, I did it. Like so many things. So I'm sure that gives her great confidence, but that you have to take it seriously.
You're right, because I remember for that first 2 years of my marriage, I was like, look, I believe in Freshly Ground. I believe, just trust me. Like, I really believe in it. I believe in the vision. And I would, all she had to ride on was my word, because I was making no money for Freshly Grounded. I was just losing money. But I was like, no, I believe in it. Just like 6 more months, 8 more months. And then eventually it pulled off, alhamdulillah. But it was because you get that support network that says, all right, I'm going to let you kind of chase your thing, which is also important.
I can't believe how tough that must be for even a woman to say, because I don't know how I do it. If someone said it to me, my brain would be, but maybe that's the way men are. Panic, I mean, we like want to take control of the situation and feel like we could got a solution for it. But you do have to like understand that, be wise as well, and understand that, look, that's a huge advantage you have when your wife trusts you with that. It's a huge advantage, because not a lot of people get that.
You know that why thing that you said you have, or that I said you have, which is like when someone says you can't do something, you kind of go, why can't we do it? Why can't we do it? Have you watched the Inside Bill Clinton's Brain, or whatever it's called, on Netflix? He has that exact trait.
Mate,
where
sorry, can you give me tissue, please, bro?
Is it Bill Clinton? No, it's Bill Gates. Sorry, not Bill Clinton.
Bill Gates. Yeah.
Bill Gates has that trait where he basically said, why is it that so many children are dying from diarrhea? It doesn't make sense, because in the West, it doesn't happen. You never hear in the West someone will go, oh, this person passed away. Oh, why did they pass away? Because of diarrhea. What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's very fascinating.
So he was like, he basically said that, why are people dying from diarrhea in 2019, for example? And then he was like, let's create a sewage system and a toilet that functions all over the world, but it provides toilet hygiene.
And
Independently. He had so many people saying that they can't create it, that he got a notepad and a pen out and just figured it out. He was like, why? He basically said, and he went to specialists who like build sewage system toilets. And they all said no. And he just thought to himself, look, why can I imagine a system that fixes this, but it doesn't exist? Like, what? I can't accept that it can't happen. So and look now, bro, he created it.
He man works, man. I think there's very few people like him. Of course, look how successful he is, but who are able to just have this innate can't accept anything and know it's possible. Yeah. And it's very, probably, imagine how many no's you got to battle. Imagine how much inner what's coming at you, and you're the only person probably on the planet, well, clearly because he's the only one that's done it, who thinks that. And I also think it takes a great character of person, why these guys are so admirable, to see something like that, like especially world issues, things that people are dying over, because that takes a great level of heart as well. And they want to solve it but first of all, spending billions on it, which of course is probably chump change to him, but still putting that into this is incredible. And then to find a solution and being determined to do it. And look how many people we consider world leaders. Like, he actually had an interview once that's quite interesting. I think it was on a Hassan Minaj's Why Billionaires Won't Save Us episode of Patriot Act. And Bill Gates is probably the best example of kind of a good one, which is that he says that, look, I want to become the president because I get all the merit and all of the ability to do great things, even more so than a president, so even more powerful by being me. Because he's not held accountable to certain things, yet he can go out and do the most incredible things that he wants to. And it's not political. And I think that's very important as well. I think there's so many problems that we can all identify in the world, but how many people are brave enough to want to take them on? How many people are willing to constantly ask why, not accept any no's, and just power through it. Bro, you just look around everything, and there's just tons of problems everywhere.
Yeah, I think the difference between Bill Gates and some other people is that there's people in the world. There's people that want to change the world, and then there's people who want to change their world. And most people probably just want to change their own world. Whereas Bill Gates is one of the people who said, "I want to change the world."
Yeah.
Which is because look, but imagine if you spent your whole life trying to change your own world and you've achieved it. All you've done is positively affected your own life and maybe the lives of the few around you. You've got yourself a better house, more comfort. You've got yourself a bit of peace, and the people around you've helped. But those who change the world, the difference is that they might have to go through struggles themselves their whole life, but the outcome is that the world is a better place in some way.
Sure, man, sure. But I can't. They seem like such a way away thing for us to even think of. But having to be in that space where you could think like that. I can't even think about how profound it must be to know that you have the ability to do something like that. Where, bro, there's millions and millions of lives, billions over the course of time. Like someone asked him as well about his legacy in an interview. They said, what do you see your legacy being? Do you ever think about your legacy or something like that? He goes, or how do you want to be remembered? Something along those lines. He goes, look, again, you have to take answers from these people very seriously, because they don't give you the bog standard answer that the average human does, which is, my legacy to be boom. Look, everyone loves the idea of being remembered. Just because you want your life to be purposeful, you feel like your existence should be remembered. Yeah. Whereas he says that, look, apart from my kids and my family, of course, I want them to remember me, and they will remember me. I should fondly be in their hearts. However, if I can create something or eradicate something that's causing death, causing other people to die, he goes, isn't that just a beautiful thing? And when you think about that, it's such an interesting perspective, because his name doesn't have to be associated to it. He doesn't care, but just to feel that, look, after I'm gone, so many other people will not die over such basic things because I existed. And I think that's a great way of looking at the world, as opposed to being kind of preserving and just being like, I want my legacy to be. And I do think a lot of us and most of us are of that mindset that what will my legacy be? How people remember me? What can I do to be like, I did it, like my name on this and, put this here. And, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's also why I feel like in this life, seeing as we don't know how long we're going to be alive, it's better that right now while we are alive, we work on creating things that can live on after we die. Because if you just create a great personal brand for yourself, it dies when you die. Yeah. But if you create something like a brand that can live on after you die, that can affect people positively, and it doesn't have to be creating toilets that save lives, but it could be something small like, for example, Freshly Grounded. The idea of it is we're never going to directly save lives by creating toilets, but perhaps we benefit people from it and it can live on after I die. Feed Source is another perfect example. Feed Source is completely separate to who you are, but Feed Source has the ability to change the way brands get product photos forever. It has that. It can literally be as big as Airbnb is for homes. It can be like that for content creation, but that doesn't die when you die, and that's what's so much more powerful than just creating something that is for you or dies when you die. Like, so then what? For a little a speck of the time you're on the earth, you manage to change a few things.
It's definitely interesting when changing the world to feel like you've shifted the current a bit. You know what I mean? The needle a bit in some way.
Yeah, in some way. That's the correct thing. Is it also is in some way, like, you have to play your part, because you can't shift the entire world. There's too many things happening in the world to shift the whole world. Some people maybe can, but I don't know. I think that if you just accept that there's a small part that you could maybe shift, like for you, it might just be the way content is produced. That could affect, that can have a knock-on effect or domino effect. But people don't choose their niche, though. I think people want to have this big vision of, I want to change the whole world. But how?
And also you get sucked into social norms. So right now, like Instagram, social media, bro, if one person had the idea to create, let's say Facebook or whatever it was, like it's an evolution. Granted, evolutions will happen. The way people network, the way we communicate, will always happen. But you have to, I'm going to be careful how I say this, but if you look at each person as an individual entity, with an individual mind, irrespective of influence, which is, you have to get that concept in your mind first. Understand that you're one person, irrespective of influence, independent mind, if you were to exist, without any of these things like influence or whatever, and you're independently, how would the world look? How would you fit in it? And what tends to happen is that you become molded by the world rather than molding it. So you become sucked into, oh, this is what society should be. This is social media. This is what everyone does now. This is how everyone thinks now. This is Brexit. This is politics. This is Trump. And this is what your brain should be consumed by. But again, in doing that, you come deeper and deeper and deeper into a rabbit hole and take yourself away from the fact that you're an independent person with an independent mind outside of any influence. And when you can put yourself back in that mindset, it's very freeing and liberating because you cannot be controlled by these things. What says that should live in your mind? Because your mind hasn't been born to then have to consume this knowledge. You're letting it do that by being sucked into that. So you have to, of course, have your finger on the pulse of society, of culture, communication. There's a level of that in terms of...
You should have a filter on what you can intake,
well, you have to be able to... And that's why I...
Because your brain is limited, isn't it?
I said on my social media the other day, I said, never be silenced. And I was a part of it, which is like, you should have your own voice, your own opinion, your own thoughts. There's nothing wrong with... And because things that go against the grain are like, hold on, how? But it's because it doesn't fit the bucket, it doesn't fit that little box. You have to be able to see things in such a broad way that I myself, as an independent person, can have this impact if I believe in it strongly enough.
What comes to my mind with like going against the grain is how Starbucks was started.
Yeah.
Because who's the guy who started Starbucks?
I do know his name.
Is not Larry something, is it?
Howard Schultz.
Howard Schultz, yeah. He was saying that when he started working at Starbucks and he tried buying the company off the guys who owned it, I think it was a couple maybe, his idea for Starbucks, because Starbucks wasn't doing that well at the time, his idea was an idea that hadn't been created before, and it was to create the third space. Bruv, how mad is that? That he basically had this idea that people have two spaces in their life, work and home. I want to create the third space, which is neither work, neither home, but you can do things that you do at home there, and you can do things that you could do at work there. And it's the third space. It's a relaxed environment. You can go there and chill, have a coffee, or you can go there, get your laptop out and work. Because, bro, you can go to Starbucks, spend £3.50 and be there the whole day, and no one will kick you out generally. But how did he create that? But he had the mindset that I'm going to create something that doesn't exist. The idea that there needs to be a third space for people. People want to have a break. People want to have an in-between space between work and home. And now he's created that. Now any coffee shop is the third space. And but he had an example. He had an idea that went completely against the grain, and it didn't make sense to them, to the point where they let him do it as a trial basis, and because it went okay, he got another one, and eventually he was able to buy Starbucks and then create it how he wanted it.
Bill Gates' dad, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
The concept of, by the way, thinking deeply into the way emotions work and the way people it takes a great level of what's it called? Kind of emotional intelligence, perhaps is the word, to even know that something that people might want. Yeah. Because we speak about it in private, but to create things where the reason we like comedy is because they say what the mind is thinking. And how insane is
the psychology behind it.
But for example, if you really think about it, why is it that when someone says something funny that you relate to, you laugh, and not laugh like haha, you laugh like could be crying laughing.
Because it triggers that emotion.
It triggers emotion, but how deeply is that thought locked up inside you that the fact that someone said it is so freeing?
Yeah.
That is so liberating that your body can't control the excitement.
Yeah, it's so freeing.
Right?
Wow.
That you cry with it because someone has finally said what is deeply ingrained. So why racism becomes funny? When when a comedian says something racist, and let's say a comedian says something about Muslims to an audience, and why they would howl laughing. Because the comedian in the room, it makes it funny, but if you take a step outside, how insane is it that they would howl at that thought? Because there's a thought within them that is crying.
I remember being really affected by that when me and you was watching comedy.
Was it Seinfeld?
Yeah. So me and you went to see some comedy, and he made a joke about Muslims, immigrants.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, bro, it was the deadest joke.
Yeah.
And the howls that came from the crowd, you're like, raw. Like, people feel that passionate about they hate immigrants that much. Like, it's actually just come out. The whole audience has just laughed so much at a joke that wasn't meant to be funny.
A lot of comedians say that's
scary.
Is a reflection. That's why so many people don't like it as well. It's because it's a reflection of society.
But I felt like me and you were the only people in the room at that time. We were around like 1,000 people, and everyone was howling because my man said something about immigrants that was so like it's like they were all thinking like, yeah, get him out.
Look, as crazy as it is, I think it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that you can see. Like, I find it more fun to be able to take a step out and have a perspective on it than be in it. Like, if you're in it, bro, that the things that we do today, people that are in the rat race don't actually step out to observe the fact that they're in the rat race. You know, you have to if you could take one layer out of your perspective and see it as a different perspective, it's so it's so insightful, you know, and how much you can learn from that. So if people actually thought about, why did I laugh? Why do I laugh? Why is it something? But the point I was coming to for community is that there's so many things, the most incredible things, such as the third space for Starbucks, and some of the things that the greatest companies in the world have done are because they are, Apple and Steve Jobs being the prime example of creating something, and he says himself that people don't know they need. You yourself have to be in touch with your own emotions to know that you are innately a human, and therefore you have emotional triggers that every human has. Number one. Number two, what is those societal triggers? What are those triggers that as a society we all have? And then three, what is a problem you're trying to solve through it? So, but those things are all experienced in silence. That's what makes it so incredible when someone does it. When you can take the way people, the need for communication, and then the speed of technology, and then the rate at which it's growing, and design and user experience, and then bring it into a product like an iPhone. It's like, oh, we always needed this. We just didn't know how bad. And yet someone did it because they were so in touch. And when Jeff Bezos invented reviews, can you believe Amazon invented reviews? The concept of reviews, which was seen as so bad. And in fact, when he
everyone might stay away from reviews.
Everyone said to every publisher said, don't do this because it will hurt our product and we will stop listing with you. And he himself said it won't. He goes, because we are not trying to, I don't want to get this wrong, so I might get it wrong. He said, we're not trying to help you sell more. We're trying to help our customers make better,
more informed decisions.
Better informed decisions. And how amazing is that?
Amazing.
So the negative things only created a more competitive landscape. These are the most incredible, most basic ways of thinking that I think we should all find in ourselves and tap into on a day-to-day basis.
There's things about Amazon that people really dislike about with regards to their ethics, but from a business perspective, it's very clever. Like, for example, like I know that one ethical issue that a lot of people have with Amazon is this concept that when something they see that something sells very well, they will like create their own version of it or buy the company out, and then they'll put theirs at the top. Which, if you take ethics aside, is a really clever business move.
It depends on what you're looking at. It depends, but
yeah,
also people always root for the underdog. I mean, at the beginning, when you're starting, when you're small, when you're Airbnb at the beginning, all these new kids are starting this revolutionary company. Now they had a situation where something terrible happened. But now it's like you're under scrutiny. You know, it's always like, well, now Amazon, the biggest it is now he's the richest man in the world. Now he's your enemy. But when you start in it, he's just a geek with a mad vision. And it's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? So it's just that we don't like control. We don't like people owning a lot. We don't like people overseeing things. We love to feel like, it's a strange thing.
We also don't like to feel like inferior or feel like someone's clever than us. So when someone makes a quick mistake or small mistake, we want to jump on top of it. You
want to bring it back to your level.
Yeah, so like when, for example, Elon Musk did the display and they threw the thing at the window, and then the window smashed, even though it's meant to be a smash-proof glass. The reason everyone loved it so much is because it's like, you were wrong. Like, you are inferior like us.
By the way,
it's like,
I wouldn't be
the fact that man created a window that he had such a strong intention to create something that it was smashed. That's so admirable, and everyone's forgotten about how admirable it is that he's trying to change the world through technology. That everyone's gassed that he did something that was wrong.
By the way, which could have been a stunt.
That's true.
You can imagine sitting in a room and Elon Musk saying, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if the glass is the toughest glass in the world, but it actually broke?" Yeah. You can imagine him saying that. Those words come out of his mouth.
He's very clever.
You know what I mean? Because we're in the anti-world. The anti-world meaning the opposite attracts. Like the things that...
and that clip went viral,
bro. Because that's there's something else that happened recently. What was it culturally that happened where something went wrong and it became very, very famous? Bro, I don't know if I'm... I don't know, Nate, you can chime in, man. But it might come to me. But something happened over the last couple of weeks where something actually went the opposite way, but because it happened, that was the reason why the entire thing was like the biggest thing in the world. Yeah, I have to remember it, but probably after. But yeah, that's what I'm doing, bro. People will watch it for that one little like screw up, And look, politics takes advantage of that. You know, how for example, you don't think that. Did you see that thing the other day when Boris Johnson said the fact that we're talking about it shows that news, by the way, where he said people of apparently he said people of talent, but then some people mistaking it as him saying people of color, and when the Channel 4 subtitle said people of color, then they changed it to people of talent.
I didn't see that.
So basically, he was speaking about something, saying about
I heard that he
immigration.
hid in a fridge recently for an interview or something.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but he was saying something about immigration, about people of people. We want to welcome all people of talent. Yeah. But then some people felt like he said we want to welcome all people of color. Yeah. So then he was like, why would you even refer to people of color? But then Channel 4 put the subtitles of people of color. But point being, the entire thing became a thing. Yeah. Even though a speech would have been everything else in speech, load of BS. No one's listening. You know what I mean? But yet this thing becomes a bit much talk about thing. It's always that's a word. It goes without saying, but the thought that is how we live is insane. Like if something ludicrous happened here right now, this would be the most video watched on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If this infused into like an argument and we got into a fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, the most viewed episode ever of Freshly Grounded. For what
Which
reason?
is a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not the one that has the most.
It's just the word. Look, you have to accept it for what it is, but that's. But we also have to understand that is the way the world is right now. But you can't. But it's very easy to play to that as well. You have to be smart in
one
playing
thing
to
I
it.
don't like is how things right now just feel so negative in the world. Like especially on social media, it's like everyone's out for everyone. I don't like that. I don't like that too. I wish that because I feel like we're not created as evil people. I think our natural state is that we're positive and happy, and so it's like
true.
so it's like there's some disease of our hearts that has got all of us, which might be jealousy, it might be envy, it might be ego, but some diseases hit the majority of us, and we're all of a sudden negative.
So look, you hear of the term divide and conquer, and going back to when England would invade these countries in the British Empire. Bro, that is the entire concept. Now it's just divide and conquer on a technological level, you know, and in fact more controllable and more precise. Yeah, because if you can get into, first of all, you got tons of data. Yeah, bro, if we wanted, how incredible and how possible it is, and it is possible for everyone to just be sent beautiful messages throughout the day. Everyone just say beauty, beauty, beauty. First of all, we're not made like that, but secondly, it's designed and it's in the interest of society being like financial structures, political structures, you know, to actually break up, divide us, power. Why we don't hear about China and everything going on there with Muslims right now. There's so many things, bro, that are kept in certain pockets for a reason. You know, why we feel so happy when we do a good deed for someone. It makes us the most happiest. Yet you don't have a section of the news that's about the great things that happened today. When it shows you London tonight, it's not the great things that happened in London today. Look at all the good deeds that someone did. Oh my, and would that not inspire people? Would that not encourage people to go out and give people a round of applause and be like, you know what, well done, I'm going to go and do that tomorrow? Isn't that a great thing to show your children? And instead, this person got killed. This person, death tolls on the rise. Bro, it's just planted in a negative way by design. But again, you choose to be sucked into that, or you understand you're an person with an independent mind outside of any influence. You know, it just depends on how you want your perspective to be. There's a level of which you understand what is happening and you stay in it, and you have to remove yourself from it. And I think that sometimes does require a physical manifestation of that. For example, taking yourself off social media or really stepping outside of that circle and then trying to focus on what can be controlled. I don't think people like your Elon Musks and Bill Gates and, you know, even the people that are running Stripe, or the Collison brothers, who are absolutely like inspiring, are doing what they're doing because they're chimed into the pulse of social media. No way. They're in their own matrix.
What happened to Basecamp?
That still exists.
Has it just died down though?
It's definitely not what Slack. Slack just killed them. I love Slack.
Because Basecamp blew up in it, and then the founders wrote a book, a really cool book called Rework.
So one of them called
Rework.
Yeah, what's that guy? DHH. Yeah, I follow him. He's all anti. He's very anti Facebook.
Really?
Yeah. He's like about privacy issues and everything. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion.
No.
Bro, hopefully this episode is recorded because we haven't got a backup for it. So we hope that it is.
Man, that's so
thanks,
fascinating.
man, for
Bro,
the chat,
you,
man. Now, all I wanted was for us to just have a chat like we normally do, like off camera, rather than kind of like interview style thing. And that's what we were able to do, man. So
Really cool, bro.
appreciate
Love
it.
it, man. Safe
All right,
G.
man.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you very much for listening. This was episode 139 of Freshly Grounded. We hope hitting 140 soon, and inshallah 150 very, very shortly. And that's it. Thank you very much to my guest, also my blood brother Omar Choudhry, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.